We're back with ball watching. Welcome. If you're joining us on a Thursday evening or Friday morning or Saturday, anytime before City plays against Seattle Sounders, Jake and Justin from Ball Watching are here to break down the preview of St. Louis City SC's hopeful bounce back match against who's probably the best team in the MLS as of right now in the Seattle Sounders. We got a loaded agenda breaking down everything they're going to throw at us on Saturday. But before we get there, Justin, we have a pretty fun five-a-side that you picked out for us today. Want to explain it for the crowd?
Yeah, I know there's a couple different words you can use for it, but we're going with the best team logo. What do you call it? Emblem. We're going
Crest.
International. What are you going to say?
Crest.
There you go. A lot of different words. And we're going international. So you can do, and when I say international, like countries, or you can go with international teams. Like you can do EPL, La Liga, Bundesliga, things like that. So these are the coolest ones. I know you can base it on historic or whatever you want to say, but we'll explain why we think we picked the right ones.
All right. Am I getting started?
Kicked off, yeah.
Okay. I think I'm not a fan of them at all, but my number one pick for just most recognizable kind of classic logo is Manchester United. I think with the yellow and who didn't have a Manchester United jersey or something Man U when they were younger, they were the most classic team and probably still one of the most heavily supported clubs of all time.
Yep, I think that's fair. They were on my list. Weren't my number one though. I think it's a similar note though. I am a fan of these guys, and this is somewhat similar, but especially when Ronaldo went there, Real Madrid. So it's a very classic look. I think when you look into it and you see the MFC for Madrid Football Club in there, it's kind of like baked in. Also, did you know that they did not add the crown to the top until it was given to them by the Spanish king Alfonso VIII? And he actually gave it to them to dub them Real. They used to just be Madrid.
Wow, you always do your research on these with the background support.
And that's why I'm 9-1 now.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm digging into the team we're playing. You're digging into the five-a-side. So we've got another one. Round two. By the way, no one can say City. No one can say U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
Off the board. So my second one I'm going to go with, which is interesting. Everyone knows, but Roma has a pretty interesting logo. If you look closer, I like the color scheme with like the yellow and red. They have like gold and red, but it's a wolf, and under it are two like humans that are suckling the wolf. Like it's hilarious. This is a logo that's big, but well loved. Roma's a big team, heavily supported, big fan base. But I love the logo. I think it's pretty cool.
It's probably the right word there, but never. We're adding sporting. What is the other word? And you don't use suckling either on here. That made me feel weird. Mine's another well-known one as well. It's Liverpool. I know take people that are listening. You need to take your fan bases off of this. We're talking strictly logos. If you don't like Liverpool's soccer team, fine with me. I don't care. But you'll never walk alone on the top, the fire on the sides. Established 1892. I absolutely love it.
I'm going to go national team with my next one, Netherlands or Holland, however you like to call it. I think they got one of the flashiest, coolest, kind of simple logos as well. It's like a orange lion dragon looking thing. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked at the history at all, but people wear it for fashion as well. That's when you know you kind of have a cool logo.
So that was next on my list. Well, I did look it up a little bit. I'll give you a quick fact that it's KNVB that's below it, and I'm going to go ahead and try and pronounce it. Koninklijke Nederlandse Voetbalbond, and it's the Royal Dutch Football Association.
So that was you. I think you might have nailed that one. That was good.
I absolutely did. I called a friend. England is mine, the national team as well. So I'm going to go with the three lions. I just think it's a cool one. It's not really flashy, but I just think it's extremely iconic. And one of those things like growing up, I don't know why, but when I was growing up, I was like, how does England not win the World Cup every year when all the guys in the EPL get to play for their team? So that was my mistake, not understanding that growing up. But I love their logo.
Okay, three lions. That's fair. I'm gonna bring it home for this one. And little caveat: New England Revolution logo pre-rebrand was fantastic. The basically the American flag in kind of a swoosh a little bit with the ball as the blue and white instead of the stars and then the red and white stripes. I thought it was incredible. The fact they rebranded from that is ridiculous to me.
I almost went with like the burn or something when it used to be like teams way back then in the MLS. I did not. I went with another classic one, but not as well known of a team. I went with Crystal Palace. When you look into their logo, it's actually awesome. It's a giant eagle clutching like an old style ball, swooping over the Crystal Palace in London. Didn't even know that was a place. So I really like it. I think it's something that you just don't see very often.
Okay. Okay. The last thing I'm gonna round mine out with is FC Köln. So playing the Bundesliga, it is a logo of a cathedral, the Cologne Cathedral, with a goat, basically mounting the cathedral. It's pretty cool if you haven't seen it. Very classic. They're not one of the better teams in Germany usually, but I think they have the best logo in the Bundesliga, maybe one of the top in the world, in my opinion.
Suckling and mounting. You got to pick.
Take a look. Let the audience decide for themselves.
Last one I've got. I thought you were going to take it, which I would have been shocked because this is coming out of left field. It's FC Santa Claus. It is the
saw that one.
Fifth tier. It's the fifth tier in the Finnish football system. They've played in the third tier, so they've been kind of around. And God, their logo rocks. And everything I looked up, their games right now, they're just playing in like a foot of snow, so it just makes sense.
FC Santa Claus. All right, so let's round it back. So I went first with Man U, then I went to Roma, then I went to Netherlands, then Revolution, and then FC Köln.
Real Madrid, Liverpool, England, Crystal Palace, FC Santa Claus.
Gonna be a tight one. Gonna be a tight one this week. Got a feeling.
All right, let's get into the preview.
My week. Yeah, let's talk some soccer, some kick. So we've got Minnesota United final thoughts. Snap back to reality, man. Eminem said it best. This was a reality check for the team to finally get that loss out of our way. I'm just glad to have it done with. And it wasn't the worst or ugliest thing you could have imagined either. They could be a sneaky decent team this year. They're doing pretty well without their star man. I can't imagine like losing Klaus right now and having to make do or Leuven, God forbid. But they're doing well. And people are thinking they could be a sneaky, actually decent team, especially if he returns.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think there's really much to touch on. I know we did a lot with the recap. I can't believe you actually said snapback to reality. I saw it in the notes, but I thought that was just like something for you to remember. XG, we had 0.95, so they're 1.66. So technically, yeah, we probably should have lost. I think we should have put one away. And we already talked about they had one off the post and a PK. That's the majority of their XG. So I thought we played a good game. And I mean, I think even with some of the stuff, there's a lot of bright spots. I thought Roman played really well. I thought the midfield did what they needed to do there. And I think Klaus, we created some chances. We just couldn't put them away.
I will say, I think I spoke a little bit down on Berkey in that game, not being able to grade him, but I do think he's still providing a lot of value outside of the saves, even when he's not tested. It's weird, man, how he's not getting too much action in some of these games. I think this one's going to be a big one for him against Seattle. But other kind of things to know about, the MLS disciplinary committee reviewed the game. Thankfully, they're doing their job. And Jared Strau's yellow card on Franco Fragapane was taken away, actually. They don't give that person a second yellow in return. They just actually fine him. Can you imagine how embarrassing that would be to be retroactively fined for being an idiot?
Well, also one thing we should have mentioned, that was in the 36th minute and would have been his second yellow.
Yellow.
He would have been up a guy completely different. So yeah, no, it's tough. I'm glad that they're looking at these things though.
Yeah. No inclusions for the team and team of the match day. Unfortunately, we shifted down in the power rankings from 2 to 4 on MLS and 3 to 4. So it's sitting in that 4th spot on across all power rankings. But Justin, a little bit of other pieces of news, kind of fun stuff. Simon Betcher was the MLS match day 6 player of the week. The guy has 3 goals, 1 assist in only 110 minutes for Vancouver and a SLU alum. Like how cool is that?
He's the first or the fastest ever to score his first 4 goals in under 90 minutes. I think it was 87 total.
Incredible.
But just absolutely insane. I think he's been playing well. It's good to see someone from St. Louis, from SLU specifically, do that well in the MLS. And then one other thing to note that now we're kind of hopping in on this. I love that you added it because I was going to if you didn't. The same group that trademarked All for City just trademarked the Cease and Desist Cup. So we know exactly what game that's going to. May 20th, Kansas City. We'll play them 3 times this year, so we'll take that cup home for sure.
It's not catchy, but it's good. It's definitely good. I support it. We could be getting one soon as well if we draw Sporting in the U.S. Open Cup. So more to come on that. But lastly,
wait, last one real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
This may be just. I'm intrigued. Do you think they're going to call it the CDC Cup? That just like COVID. Well, I'm just saying, like, or is it? You don't usually put "and" in acronyms, but CDC Cup. I don't think people are very fond of the CDC and all that.
We'll see if that even sticks. I mean, this is a shot in the dark for these guys. They got All for City for sure. So we'll see if this one actually sticks. But lastly, for anyone going out and about in St. Louis this weekend or for the next, couple of months, I know this is an exhibit going around for a while, but there is a Soccer City exhibit opening at the Missouri History Museum on this Saturday, April 8th, which features jerseys, memorabilia from all kind of St. Louis former players and folks that really just built the game in St. Louis. And it looks fantastic from the pictures and reviews that I've seen. So I encourage you all to check that out if you want to get a sense of really what is the history of soccer in St. Louis and who's behind that. So just a quick plug there. Well, I know we're probably going to check that out at some point. But Justin, let's get into Seattle, the Sounders. Seattle is definitely an MLS juggernaut. They started play in the MLS in 2009 as an expansion team. They won the last year's CONCACAF Champions League as the first ever U.S.-based winner. So first ever team in the MLS to win that tournament, which is no small feat. They've won 2 MLS Cups, 1 Supporter Shields, 4 U.S. Open Cups. They're kind of the guy in MLS. I'm not gonna underplay this team. They've been good for a while.
Yeah, it's all in the past. It's before we got here, so
that is it's in the past.
Adrian Hanauer is one of the owners, and then they have a lot of minor owners that like Drew Carey, Russell Wilson, Sierra McLemore, Ken Griffey Jr. That's cool. It doesn't help on the field, so that's fine. 2022, I mean, it shows they didn't help on the field. They had 12 wins, 17 losses, and 5 draws, and they didn't qualify for the playoffs for the first time. So, I mean, they had 47 goals for, 46 against. They had the best of the goal differential for people that didn't qualify, but, I mean, that doesn't give anything for you.
The best of the worst.
For that? Yeah,
exactly. Best of the worst. But, man, their season, because that Champions League happened so early on, I think it just ran them into the ground, and they were not able to focus back on MLS afterwards. But still a good team. They've made some additions, and they're still have a great roster. In 2023, it's going pretty well for them thus far. They've got a 4-1-1 record, and they're sitting right below these guys in the Western Conference on 2 points of a difference away. They've got 2 dubs, one against SKC, just an absolute thumping, and Galaxy, who they just won against, and then they lost actually against Cincy, who we have next week. And then home, they have 2 wins against Colorado and RSL, 2 teams I think we're both capable of beating and have beaten RSL, and 1 draw against LAFC, who's not a joke of a team either. They got 12 goals for so far this season and 3 against, but they're getting up to speed. That Sporting game was so much fun to see Sporting get their first and only goal this season, and then have Jordan Morris just say, I'm just going to score 4 this game.
Yeah, I think that was extremely fun to watch. But one thing that I do want to note, Jake, is they keep talking about how we haven't played anybody real yet. And that's what's really coming with the Minnesota game, now Seattle, then Cincy. If you want to talk about this is the game that you can dub the top of the table game. That is also the game of people that haven't played real teams. They played Colorado, Kansas City, LA, and Real Salt Lake. All 4 of those teams have only 3 points through 5 or 6 games. And so if I want to hear all the haters like, oh, the expansion team, they start out an easy season. So have these guys. It's going to be an interesting game.
I think it's both. Probably if you look at how this season's fared thus far, both of these teams have circled this game in the calendar as being one of their first big tests. Now seeing how the season's gone so far. So I think they're looking at this one as a big challenge as well. Obviously, we're sitting ahead of them in the Western Conference, so they have to do their due diligence here. But they've got some pretty good players, man. They've got a pretty deep team. And a lot of guys that I'm sure that you've heard of before, even if you're not that close to MLS, but Jordan Morris probably being the biggest name of them. 27-year-old striker, also left winger. He's got 8 goals on 9 shots on goal this season. So he's the current Golden Boot leader. 4 of those came against the rivals down I-70. And thank you, by the way, Jordan. That was fantastic. I love seeing you do that. But he's also got a ton of caps for the U.S. men's national team. 51, 11 goals. He actually went to the World Cup and got some minutes against Wales. So great for him. But he's on fire to start this season.
We talked about that when he saw the field. That was the one guy, like, I thought they were bringing him to the World Cup for like a locker room guy. Should have never touched the pitch for the U.S. men's national team, but that's a different story. Then Alex rolled on, 26-year-old brother, Christian. He is also a key player for Seattle and the U.S. men's national team. We probably a locker room guy for the national team.
Yeah, right. The Alex thing throws me off because Christian and Alex brothers, how do they, and they don't play for the same national team, and you're like, why? I guess Alex just saw a better path with El Salvador.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah, I didn't. Sorry. I was getting back to that's what it's not him, but it's his brother. But yeah, he has 15 caps, 2 goals for El Salvador. So not doing everything there, but he has 2 assists so far this season. So kind of shows that he's a wingback that gets up and likes to get into the run and play in the offense. So something to look forward to with him.
And I'll round us out with they have this guy named Leo Chu left winger, 22-year-old Brazilian who has just lit it up these last couple games. He's only started 2 total games this season, and he's got 1 goal and 5 assists, and that's just in these last 2 games. So he's the current assist leader because of those 2 games. And who knows if it's just a flare up and he's playing for a good team or if he's actually just that legit, but he's on fire. And then Nico Ladero is their playmaker, their magician. The guy is a stone cold killer. He's not the most physical. He's kind of a small frame type of guy. He's also their captain, but he played in Ajax, which is an incredible club to play for. Also a cool logo. Surprised they didn't make the 5-a-side, but he's basically their chance creator. Everything kind of flows through him, and he has all the ball. He loves being the ball. He has the vision. He can find something and make it out of nothing. So definitely one to be looking out for during the game. Hopefully he doesn't hurt us too bad.
Yeah, I would say another honorable mention is Raul Ruidiaz. I know he's come back off an injury. He's a 32-year-old. So, I mean, this team's kind of looking a little old, Jake.
They are on the older side. I would say.
So something to look forward to. And then Stefan Fry.
Yeah.
I get that right? Goalkeeper. And then Christian Roldan for center mid.
Yeah. So, I mean, names all around for sure. There's going to be no shortage of that during this game. You'll recognize a lot of these guys, but we hope we can handle them. Let's talk about their style of play. Justin, we've got a head coach in Brian Schmetzer. Actually, too, when I was in the research, so Preki is the assistant coach for head coach Brian Schmetzer, and Preki was here at STLFC back in 2017 as the head coach. But back to Seattle, they're a 4-2-3-1 type of team in most cases. Nico Ladero playing that kind of spearhead of the midfield in the attacking midfield position. And he's kind of acting as an outlet, just wants to get in the ball in possession, and they push their fullbacks and create a lot of width high and really create a lot of chances from that. If you watch their highlights, I watched every one of their highlights going into this game. Almost every goal and every chance they get comes from a cutback cross, a normal cross. These guys, it's so predictable, but for some reason it just works. So they're a dangerous team from the flanks.
And that's tough for us because I know that's one of the things that we've talked about that we really need to focus on is marking up and getting a little tighter in the box. So hopefully that's not going to be something that hurts us. What hurt them last year, you already mentioned it, was fatigue and injuries. I think coming off the CONCACAF Champions League, the MLS, the U.S. Open Cup, I think they just had a lot of games in a short amount of time last year, and could be a reason why they missed the playoffs, but no excuses. I think it's completely different. We talked about the off seasons can be very different for some of these teams, and they're off to a pretty good start.
They are indeed. There's a lot going into this game, man. I mean, at its simplest, this is the meeting of the 2 best teams in the Western Conference currently. There's no other way of saying that. So this means a hell of a lot to both of these teams. Seattle, for all their attacking prowess, has only allowed 3 goals so far this season. We're scoring at a pretty high rate, but obviously we were just held to a shutout in the last game. So we'll see how we respond. But they also have not conceded at home yet. And this game is in Seattle's home at Lumen Field, which is historically one of the toughest forums to play at in MLS. They don't do the full like Seattle Seahawks situation. They do that for some games where they open up the entire stadium, but usually they condense it to about 37,000 seats. I'm sure they'll be bumping on Saturday night, or at least I hope to see that for Seattle. It's a hard atmosphere to go and get a win in.
Shout out Kevin Lumen Field.
Yep.
He sits with us. The one thing I will say too is looking at that, being up in the field, looking at the weather. I thought it'd be a little colder. It's a high 54, low 43, kind of similar to some games we've had recently.
Not bad.
So, no, nothing too concerning there. They're second in goal differential right behind us, so it's going to be a good game. The one thing that you've noted on here, and I know that you like, is it's been a draw during halftime for all of their home games so far. The Galaxy, when they played them, they kind of let them off the hook. With Fry, made 7 big saves, 1 stop in the final play. But something to look forward to is I think something's got to give, Jake. We're not getting shut out twice. There's no chance. We have too much firepower, and they don't give up a lot of goals, so we'll see.
Yeah, the only thing I worry, and I agree, I think the only thing I worry about with them is that depth. Is even if, we mentioned some players and we mentioned some injuries too, in Ruidiaz and Heber as well, one of their forwards. I mean, if one's not clicking, they've got someone else to stick in and say, hey, you go give it a shot. So that's one of the things I worry. If we can totally nullify someone like Jordan Morris or Nico Ladero, they've got other guys just waiting in the wings, say, put me in, coach, that are not equally as good, but still really good. And they play a very direct type of attack. They're super vertical. They've got speed on the wings, like I was talking about. And this Ladero guy, like he is actually really fun to watch. He's a really talented player and creator. So I really hope we can take him on, but he is going to be one that I hope is being marked very tightly for most of the game. And I'm thinking like a Blum might be well suited just to really annoy the crap out of him and just hopefully stay really tight.
And I think we can. That's what I'm trying to look at this. I know anybody that follows the U.S. men's national team a lot or MLS for a while, Jordan Morris, I think I'm not too concerned about him. I haven't watched on how he's putting away all these goals, but good matchup for Tim Parker and Kyle Hebert, and we'll condense him with Blum and Leuven as well. Hopefully keep the ball off his feet. And one thing that we will note, just for them to look at, I know you already talked about crosses coming back. They've scored 60% of their goals pretty early on in the games, between the 21st and 30th, 31st and 40th, and the 51st and 60th. So not doing much late on, which I think that's where we can kind of close games out. Yeah. So if we can weather the storm, get to halftime, like you said, at a tie game, second half should be ours. We love the second half. Let's keep it rolling. And the only other thing is, what do you have? The most vulnerable early, 0 to 10 or midway in the second half is in the 61st and 70th. So that's where we can either jump on them right away, which we haven't really been known to do, or we can kind of close them out towards the end.
Yeah. And we'll round them out with their XG. They are averaging per 90 a 1.52 XG. So pretty much expected to score at least 1.5 goals a game. That's only 8th in the MLS. They do average 2 goals for per game, though, despite that in reality. Goals against per 90, they're averaging 1.29. So we're expecting to see them concede about 1.29 goals per game, which is 11th in the MLS. But they actually average only half a goal per game. Like I said, they've only conceded 3 so far, and which is the second lowest in the MLS. I know we faced Minnesota, who was also pretty stingy. So we'll see if the boys from City can go and rile them up a little bit and put a couple by Stephen Fry. But let's talk about us, man. We've got a lot going for us. Still been a great season so far, and I think this is our first chance to take a shot at adversity. We faced it pretty head on with Minnesota. Let's see how the guys respond. See what Carnell, Coach Hack, and all the rest of the staff are willing to kind of drum up, get some bulletin board material, and get these guys motivated to get back on the board.
Absolutely. I think these guys, ever since the loss, have just been hungry now, and they know that they've had a good game, but they got to finish. And that's one thing we have done on the road. So we're strong away. We're 3 wins on the road so far with an average of 3 goals a game. We convert shot higher on the road as well, 29% versus 23 overall. Less XG and higher XG away, though. So that's something in the stats, but let's see how we actually do on the field. I would say it's also not likely that we're going to see another sit-in like we did with Minnesota. Seattle's going to come out and play, especially with how strong they are up top, and they're going to come directly at us. So this should be a little bit more of a fun and free-flowing game.
That's a good point, Justin. I think that benefits us. I think it benefits us to be played with, not us having to go bring the play to someone else, because Minnesota, they got the win. They didn't come to play. They just kind of came to get a result. So that's always
honestly, when you kind of looking back on it, hindsight 2020, we're one of the lowest in the league on pass attempts like that. And that's because, like you said, when teams take it to us, we quickly win the ball, counter, and go at them. So when Minnesota didn't do that, we either try to play through them. That's not our style. But now we're playing a team that has a similar style to us. It'll be a lot more free-flowing and upbeat, and we should see some goals.
Absolutely. And I think something else that we'll need to do to get those goals is we got to be clinical with our chances. We were not against Minnesota. If we're going to have any chance against Seattle, we're going to be given a couple chances, I'm sure. Not given, but either earn, maybe some given. That would be great. But we're going to have to make them do. We're going to have to come out and put these away whenever we're given opportunities. We're going to have to be clinical. So that's one thing that I'm hoping we're going to be. This is a team that's still vulnerable. They're not invincible. They're vulnerable on giveaways, and they press, and they can give up the ball potentially via press in dangerous situations. Obviously, every team can do that, but I literally watched a highlight of Cincinnati doing that to them, pressing them into a mistake, and it caused the goal, and Seattle loses 1-0. So the blueprint's there. And if we can replicate that or just put our strengths to the test and put them to the sword on our finishing, it's a game that we can win.
I completely agree. And I think you have it noted in here as well that in the LA Galaxy game, they were very efficient with their set pieces as well against the Sounders. So that's something we need to look at. Sorry, I was trying to pull up the stats of that game because how many shots did the Galaxy have? I thought it was an absurd amount.
It was absurd, yeah. The Galaxy kind of gave it to them.
Yeah, it was just absolutely dumb. So definitely a team that, even though they haven't given up a lot of goals, I think they've been having to either be pretty reliant on their goalie or these teams just haven't been finishing very well, which you can tell because 4 of them are literally at the bottom of the table. So
right.
I think one last thing to really note is on our defense. I mean, last thing specifically on rely a lot on our wingers, especially with you saying that we got rolled on going down the sideline and trying to get whipping crosses. I think we need to make sure that we have that completely covered. And then also the guys in the middle, can Parker and Hebert really cut out those threats? And does you have it in here? And maybe does Bartlett maybe fit better in this situation of them trying to cross balls in?
Yeah, potentially. The last thing I'll say before I get into a little bit of the XG is this could be a comeback game for Samuel Adeniran. This is the team that was his owning team before we purchased him from Seattle. So if he gets on the field, this guy's going to have everything to play for, probably wants to prove them wrong for letting him go. And he plays with that type of brute mentality as well. So I could see him just running train over someone, especially with that mental side. So could be exciting to see him. Otherwise, Justin, a lot of our goals are coming from right before half to right after half to kind of middle of second half, big second half team. So that's what we're kind of averaging out. We're pretty vulnerable in the latter part of the second half, though, sporadically a little bit in the first half. So not the biggest routines from us. And finally, XG for us, we're about average. We're averaging 1.43 per 90 minutes, but we're scoring 2.5 goals per game, which is way outperforming expectations. And against, we're averaging 1.2 per 90, and which is 7th in the MLS, but we're actually averaging in real life 0.83 goals per game, so 7th lowest. So we're not a defensive joke either. So we've got a good defense, a pretty high output offense, and you're putting these two in the mixer together, and I think it's going to create quite a game for MLS Match Day 7.
Make sure you stay awake. It's kickoff's what, 9:30? Yeah, all the way out in Seattle.
It's late. It's late. Well, Justin, before we get into the starting 11 predictions, I do want to say, hey, that we built this city giveaway. We did not announce the winner yet, but we did do our spin the wheel off the board here. And Jason Fishburne, congratulations. You have won the We Built This City giveaway and a $25 gift card to our sponsors, The Pitch. An incredible place. Encourage you to check it out if you have not already. But Jason will be in contact to get you that gift card mailed. And congratulations on the dub. A lot more of those to come. Stay tuned for that. But Justin, it's prediction time. And let's start with predicting the starting 11. I think it's going to be maybe a little bit different on this go around, but while I'm pulling it up, Justin, kind of give me your thoughts. And you can kind of skip Berkey. I mean, there's no chance that guy's
we don't even really need to touch on the back line that much. We're going left to right. Johnny, Kyle, Tim, Nerwinski. The one thing that we could touch on is, like you already mentioned, Bartlett. But as of right now, dude, I don't think these guys, nothing's going wrong with, unfortunately, Kyle had the yellow card in the PK, but that's one play. I don't think that's a reason to take him out for this starting lineup. So I think we're going to stay steady with the back four.
I think so too. I totally agree. I think you might see some change in the midfield. It sounds like Blum has been progressing and training and should be 100% come game time, ready to be in contention to start. If he's in contention to start, I think you do put him in this game to nullify some of the threat you're going to see from Nico Ladero. And other changes for me, actually, I think the rest of this team is exactly how it was against Minnesota. I think we go Jared Stroud on the left again. We play Gioacchini as the attacking midfielder / supporting forward with Joao Klaus, and Tomas Ostrak on the right wing, given Alm is, I think, still kind of recovering from some of his injury. So that's the starting lineup, I think, from the boys going into Seattle. Going to be one of the toughest games, especially on the road this season.
Yeah, and I think we'll look to have a couple guys come off the bench that's going to help us as well. I mean, looking at Miggy, he's been a Spark Club. Looking at Aziel Jackson, and I'm sorry, Celio Pompeo, looking at a couple of those guys to come in. I think that's just going to bring some energy, and we're going to need it to keep upbeat and make sure that we bring the heat to these guys early.
Certainly. Justin, prediction time. I've got the draw on this game. For the game prediction, and I've got that at 2-2 is my prediction. I think there's going to be some goals in this game, and I think it's going to be a tight one. So I'm going 2-2.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight one as well. I do think we're going to see some goals, and I'm actually going to go with a 2-1 win. I think everybody's like, oh, Seattle, storied history, great team. I don't think they played anyone important so far, LAFC, and then lost to Cincy, the only good team they played. Yes, it's a tough place to play. I think this is really what's going to shut up the haters, and then we're going to go in there and win a 2-1 game. Bada
bing. And the Grahammer time. I'm doing my piece of the Grahammer, and this is a kind of a shot in the dark, but in doing the research, I uncovered a 100% between both teams, and that is that at home, Seattle has always been tied at half. For us, I think we've been tied either at every half or every away half. So either way, it's 100% when you look at it. So I'm taking the first half draw. So you don't need to talk about goals. It's just that they'll be tied at half, and that's at plus 130. So I've got some money on that.
I like that. I think that's good. I'm going to go ahead. The only thing that scares me is that they score early, but that doesn't mean that we can't score early as well. I'm going to go back to a same game parlay. I know parlays are not something that you should be doing, but I'm going with the same game parlay of the over 2.5 in both teams to score. That'll be at minus 105. I think just so much firepower. And we're looking at what? Are we still Jordan Morris and Joao Klaus, two of the top scorers in the league? If it's not 1 and 2 or 1 and 3.
Yeah, I think it might still be 1 and 2.
So looking at that, I think that's something that we should definitely keep an eye on. I would also even do a little sprinky dinky on Joao Klaus anytime at plus 240. He's the 6th highest for a goal scorer. They have 5 other people on Seattle to score a goal ahead of Joao Klaus. I think that's rude, especially with the way he's been scoring goals. Plus 240, you won't see that very often going forward the rest of the season.
You got to know, and he's hungry too. I mean, getting kept off the board last game. So
he does not want his mother to cry.
No,
not again.
No one wants that. We want everyone else's mothers to cry. Not
his mother just cried last game. You can't let her do it twice in a row.
No more tears. No more tears for Mrs. Klaus. All right, Justin, let's wrap it up with some listener questions. We've got a bunch, so thank you all for dropping these in. But let's tackle a couple. One of them, are we happy with the draw against Seattle coming from your favorite, Justin, the Mount Vernon track and field team? I think we would be very happy with the draw against Seattle, especially away to Seattle. So, yes, short answer, definitely.
I think I have one here from Matt on Instagram. What should City be ready for playing in Seattle? Any changes or in strategy or matchups? I think it's going to be one where we just need to make sure that we don't give up an early goal, which we did against Minnesota, but definitely a different mindset and different style of play that we're going to have to play to Minnesota. We're not going to have to take it to those guys. And we kind of already covered that.
Do we believe, Justin, that this team can start a new winning streak and have a much-needed bounce back against the Sounders this weekend? From Catherine on Twitter, I do think so. I don't know if they're going to go rattle off another 5-game win streak right now, but to get a result in Seattle is a huge mental bump, and to go do it against who's probably going to be one of your top contenders this season for the MLS Cup, it would be huge for confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Going on the road again. And then we have one from here from Alva. That can we stop Morris without forgetting about Rui Diaz and the rest of the guys? I think that's one thing that we do need to be worried about. I think if we can hold Jordan Morris to not scoring a goal, that would be a big success on this defense and one great step towards getting the dub. And then we have a couple just kind of general on like bounce back in Seattle. Can we do it? Yes, it's going to be hard. I believe in this team. I think we haven't played that really bad of a game yet, and there's no reason why we can't bounce back up there.
Yeah, they've shown us a lot of resilience as well, and this is going to be one they're going to have to bounce back from. No other games, Justin, no other questions on the game itself, but one I thought was interesting. Do you have another question on the game for Seattle?
I have a couple just real quick. I'll rattle them off. What second string player do you like to see more playing time of, Jake? They said Dinaran. That's from Aaron.
This could be a game for Dinaran. He could bring a different dynamic, but him and Klaus up top is just two bulldozers of people. So I could see that happening, especially given he was sold by Seattle. I also like to see more Azio. I'm a big Azio fan from what I've seen so far.
I agree. This is from Sporeless7. This 3-game stretch, better indicator of how City can be other than the first 5 matches. Yeah, it's going to be tougher, but I do really think we're just going to keep continuing the way we're playing and hopefully just get some dubs and draws out of that. And then the only other two that I have is – are there any other players around the MLS you see joining City or City getting in the future? I think it's kind of a general one right now. I don't think there's many plugs that we need to be making right now. There's no holes, so I wouldn't see that. And then the last one from Sam Vickery, are we going to be at the game this Saturday? We have a couple friends up in Seattle, Jake. I personally will not. I think Jake's got to be in town too. Unfortunately, it's Easter.
It is Easter. Celebrate with the family. Jesus is risen. Will not be at the game, but we'll be watching from afar. MLS season pass. Loving the quality and content so far. So we'll be watching it. Last question I have, Justin, is more around the club and the clubs. Should St. Louis City be using City 2 more effectively, be giving guys like Yaro, for example, who haven't had very many minutes for the first team, some games? The club's really kind of using a lot of young players in MLS Next Pro, while senior players are getting limited time and kind of on the bench for us. I personally think that what they're doing is the right thing to do. I would love to keep guys fresh that haven't gotten minutes for sure when you can, but getting young players blooded and playing in these games and playing with talented players and developing them, that's what MLS Next Pro is literally for. So I support how it's been used so far.
Yeah, I think specifically the hard one for me is Yarrow, but
Yeah.
it's like we've already talked about with Hebert, Parker, Nielsen when he comes
Tough.
back, Bartlett. There's just so many people at that center back role, and I think Josh Yarrow is an incredible member and obviously kicked us off really well with City too. But it's tough for him. But otherwise, I agree with you, Jake. I think you got to continue to grow the younger guys. I would love to see Caden Glover at some point in the next couple of years and seeing him grow and get minutes down there. And yeah, we're playing other younger guys like Miggy Perez and Isak Jensen, 17-year-old, 19-year-old. So I think we're doing it right.
Definitely.
You did put one on here. What about the the guy that asked about Jordan Morris's ex-girlfriend being?
I saw that. Yeah, we got a question around.
Stats, man, Daniel Johnson, DM us where you got that info from.
Yeah, Daniel Johnson coming with Jordan Morris's ex-girlfriend, apparently from St. Louis. I don't know how that affects the game in this sense, given she is an ex, but maybe that's playing in the back of his head. I would love any sort of mental edge we can get on Jordan Morris for this one, but I'm not sure that's the angle. But Justin, let's wrap this up. Big game ahead on Saturday, number 1 versus number 2 in the Western Conference. This is a chance for us to make a statement, and I think the team's going to be hopefully up to the task. So catch us watching the game and at Ball Watching STL, probably tweeting a lot, Instagram storing a lot. Do some interactions with us this week. Definitely follow us. We'll be putting this out in terms of our recap on Sunday, hopefully in a little bit of a celebratory mood. That's the hope, but we shall see.
I will say, get out, enjoy the game, stay awake. If you need to stay awake, get to the pitch. The pitch is incredible. It's lively. It's vibing. And then they also have that frozen Irish coffee to keep you awake. A little 9:30 p.m. ice cream. You need to get there if you haven't already. It's been tremendous.
It absolutely has. Justin, great point. Go to the pitch, catch the game, stay up, Irish coffee. Whew, it's going to be a big one. So everyone enjoy it. Bask in it. It's a big matchup. 2 heavyweights in the MLS so far this season, and we hope we're coming out on top, and we'll catch you all on Sunday. But in the meantime, all for City.
All for City.